Once there was a teacher for the second graders telling them about the story of whales and Jonah. She said, whales, the sea animals, are so big in their body, but their mouth is so small. So technically, a whale could not have swallowed Jonah. Because we read in the Bible, right? Jonah was swallowed by a whale. And the teacher's argument is that because whales have such a small mouth, it is impossible for a whale to swallow Jonah. And the little girl was confused. No, teacher, I read in the Bible, the whale swallowed Jonah. Then the teacher said, how do you know that? For sure that Jonah was swallowed by a whale. And the girl said, see, when I go to heaven, I will ask Jonah whether he was actually swallowed by a whale or not. Then the teacher said, how do you know that Jonah is in heaven? Then the teacher said, what if Jonah is in hell? Then the girl right away said, you go and ask Jonah when you go to hell. We cannot play with kids, right? We cannot. They teach us what it means to be humble. At another time, today is all only jokes, okay? No homily today. A mother was preparing her 3-year-old small daughter to bed. And while arranging bed, the girl noticed 2 white hair in mother. And the girl right away said, Mom, you're getting gray hair. And the mom right away said, look, I'm getting gray hair because whenever my little girl doesn't behave well, I get a gray hair. And the girl thought for a while and said, Mom, in which case grandma has all gray hair. Right? Teach us to be humble. The brothers and sisters, today all the readings give us this invitation to be humble. The word humility comes from the Latin word humus, not hummus, okay? Humus, H-U-M-U-S, which is English translation, soil, the ground, the earth. Right? None of us want soil. All of us like diamonds or germs or pearls. But where do these things come from? They come from the soil. So humility is that which is grounded. We know our foundation. We know where we are coming from. So humus means the soil. So humility teaches us to be grounded on the earth, not to be exaggerated than what we are not, what I am not. So for us to unpack the readings of today, I would like to lead you to understand one of the saints in the Catholic Church. His name is Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Have you heard about him? Who is he? Is he from San Antonio? Where is he from? Where was he from? From Loyola. In which country? Spain. Loyola in Spain. So he is the founder of Jesuits. You know Jesuits, who Jesuits are? A group of priests. By the way, Pope Francis is a Jesuit. In the United States, they have famous colleges, Jesuits. Boston College, Fordham University, Loyola Marymount in California, Loyola Marymount in Chicago, in Louisiana. Texas, they could not come. I don't know why. Too hot maybe, right? So Ignatius Loyola was the founder of Jesuits. But before he founded this congregation, he was a soldier and he was a courtier in the kingdom of Spain. So he had this famous conversion, and later on he became a priest and started the order of Jesuits, the Society of Jesus. So he found this method called detachment. He was a great man, great soldier, held so many positions in life. But at the end of his life, he wanted to encounter Jesus and change his life. So he goes to a place called Monrees, to a small cave, totally detached from his royal life, wealthy life, rich life. So he goes there, spends 9 months preparing himself for the next phase of his life. which is to start this religious order. In that place was born the spiritual exercises. It's a 30-day exercise of retreat. 30-day no communication with anybody. Can you stay with 30 days without cell phone? Nowadays, highly impossible, right? So, in that place, Ignatius battled his own demons. What was holding him like a victim, like a captive? You know, in his life, Ignatius was so much concerned about how he used to look, how his hair was, how his complexion was. But in that cave at Monrees, he did not bother about his hair, his nails, his toenails. As a result, his hair grew so long, his nails and toenails grew so long, he looked like a vagabond. But in those 9 months, he learned humility. What it means to be humble, to detach oneself from all that the world can offer. In that cave, he learned what it means to be a celibate, because in his previous life, he was filled with so much lust. But in that cave, he learned to be humble. And he wanted to be a rich man in the court of the king of Spain. But in that cave, he learned what it means to be a servant. Now, Ignatius gave us this method of detachment. 4 things can take us away from God in our life. 4 things: money, power, pleasure, and honor. When these 4 things become my God, God is sidelined. When I become too much attached to these 4 things, or one of these 4, God becomes an option. So Ignatius found that these 4 things should be detached: money, power, pleasure, and honor. And today's gospel particularly speaks about honor. Notice, none of these 4 things are bad. We all need money. We all need power. We all need pleasure, some recreation. We all need honor. But when these things become attachments, we become a victim. So these are important to our identity. But when these 4 things stand on the way for me, I become less responsive to God's will. So Ignatius practiced detachment. So he calls it a method called adjure contra. In Latin means to act against. Whenever in our life we feel we are too much attached to money, power, pleasure, honor, Ignatius suggests adjure contra. In Latin means to act against. What if you find yourself attached to money, so much money? What if you find yourself attached to honor, pleasure, authority? He says, run in the opposite direction, adjure contra. Exaggerate the rejection of that good, maybe money or pleasure or honor or power. Now, Aristotle, one of the famous Greek philosophers, suggests this. When you want to straighten a stick which is bent, what should we do? What should we do? When you want to straighten a stick which is bent, is it enough that you just make it straight? No. Aristotle suggests if you want to straighten a stick which is bent, you have to bend it all the way on the opposite so that it becomes straight. What if you just make it straight? After a few minutes, it goes back to its original position. So when we find ourselves too much attached to any of these 4, what should we do? We must totally run in the opposite direction. Adjure contra, against. If sensual pleasure is my preoccupation, if food and drink is my attachment, if I'm too much caught up with nice things of life, if I'm too much attached to money, obsessed with power, what should we do? Adjure contra. Run in the opposite direction. Commit yourself to run against. Not just straight. Run against so that we become straight later on. Finally, today's gospel is about honor. If we find ourselves too much attached to recognition, identity, honor, what should we do? Take the lowest place, Jesus says. If you want to come and sit in the front pew, what should you do next week? Jesus, sit in the last pew. But in the church, it works the other way, right? They say good Catholics always sit at the back. So they are all good Catholics then, right? So against this Ignatian background, let us understand the gospel of today. When you are invited, Jesus says, go and take the lowest place. Imagine you are invited to a social party, at a function or at a gala or at a big convention center. What is in our DNA? Naturally, automatically, what do? We try to do some kind of jockeying so that we are noticed, we are recognized, we are identified. That's in our human nature. But if you want to be a Christ disciple, a humble disciple, you should do adjure contra. Though you may be holding a PhD, but be unassuming. That is the gospel value. The world might tell you, if you are a rich person, go, make yourself a big fanfare. They say there are two kinds of people at any party. One is, a guy enters the party place, the hall, and looks for one person who he knows and goes, oh, there he is, and just talks to him. There are second group and second category. The moment he comes, he makes a big show. Hey, everybody, notice I'm here. Come on. The second category. So Jesus says, no. Learn to be humble. We want always to be at the top tier. How often we see when we want to be at the top tier, someone else greater than us comes, and what happens? We feel so sad. We feel neglected. We feel rejected. So long before Ignatius said this, adjure contra, Jesus proposed, when you are invited to a wedding, don't come and take the highest place. Sit at the lowest place. Hung up on the highest place, then purposefully choose to be at the lowest place. If you and I are obsessed with being honored, actively seek not to be honored. If you and I are finding ourselves too much attached to money, actively make a choice to adjure contra, act against it. Now, Jesus is not proposing neutrality. No, we are not called to be neutral. We are called to be acting against. There are always opportunities to make yourself look identified, to go in a prideful position. But if you are a Christ disciple, if we are Christ disciples, we will take the lowest place as a servant. This is the spiritual program that Jesus offers us today. Are we ready to act against? Are we ready for adjure contra? But the beauty about this adjure contra is, acting against is, we don't have to be acting against all the time, right? Ignatius did not live in the cave for the rest of his life. He only lived there 9 months, then came and started this famous religious society called the Jesuits. So we don't have to be acting adjure contra all the time. See, once you bent a stick, which is already bent in one direction, you bent it all the way the other direction, it comes and positions itself straight. You don't have to be bending the stick all the time, right? So Jesus says, we don't have to be acting against all the time. Once we know who we are before God, we get our identity. Ignatius himself did not stay in the cave for the rest of his life. When we live this acting against, going against the current, the trends of this world for a while, we become lighter. We become free people. Whenever we go to a party, we enjoy the party, not looking for identity recognition. Jesus wants us to become those free people, liberated people. Attachments like money, power, pleasure, honor, these are like monkeys on our back, right? We carry them all the time, don't we? These are like carrying 4 monkeys on my back. They are invisible, but they are there all the time. So today, listening to Jesus and the teaching of humility, it is the time for us to tell, get off my back, all the monkeys. Get off my back. Off my back now, all monkeys. Whatever attachment is, maybe money, power, pleasure, honor. Am I trying to be too much rich? Am I trying to be too much powerful, identified, recognized? Tell that monkey, get off my back. So that Jesus wants us to learn humility. So when we tell all these monkeys to get off my back, what am I doing? I am living a lighter life. I become light. I am not preoccupied. I live a free life, knowing who I am in Jesus. Then I begin to enjoy the simple, the beautiful things of life. So let us stop fussing around with monkeys. Let us ask these monkeys to get off our backs. So that as Jesus invites us, we are living a simple life, enjoying what Jesus offers us. So we become lighter, we become freer, we become happier. What truly matters, what makes you and me happy, is always in front of us. Let us enjoy that and therefore take the lowest place. What truly makes us happy, what truly makes us lighter and freer, is always offered to us by Jesus, and it is always in front of us. Therefore, let us take the lowest place, telling all the monkeys from our back, hey monkeys, get off my back, because Jesus is inviting me to be humble. Amen.